Morning, everybody. It's Monday, May 17th, 5:30 in the morning here in Connecticut. And welcome to week 3. We're 25% of the way done with the course. So congratulations. This week, we're going to be talking about the tools that an author uses to make a story come to life here. And that's tone and imagery. So we've talked about plot, right? We've talked about the general structure of a story. We've talked about setting, how an author uses place to help move a story along or contribute to a story. And now we're going to talk about tone and imagery. And the unit here defines for you tone and imagery, but really what tone is tone is an author's word choice that helps you know their attitude when they're writing. So it's just like if somebody speaks to you, right? We can tell their attitude by the words that they use, and we can tell the attitude by the volume of their voice, and we can tell the attitude based on whether they speak very quickly, like, oh man, you got to hear this, or if they talk very slow, like, I don't know, right? Like you can tell things based on how fast or slow people talk, the words they use. Okay, don't want to put too fine a point on it. So tone are the words that an author uses, and they can let you know a lot of things about the author. Imagery are words that an author uses to help paint a picture. You're only seeing things through the author's eyes, right? Or the character's eyes, really. But the author only lets you see what he or she wants you to see. So that's why imagery is so important, right? There are so many studies that are out now that say that if you can't picture a story, you can't really comprehend it. Even if you actually know the words in the text, if you can't picture it, you can't understand it. So imagery is vitally important to storytelling. So what I wanted to do is to read you a short passage from a book and just kind of point out the tone and the imagery. This is Jason Reynolds' book, Ghost. I teach this to my 8th graders. It's a fantastic book if you're looking for something to read. Jason Reynolds is a great author. Won the National Book Award finalist, but all his stuff is really, really good. So I'm just going to read the opening page, and we'll talk a little bit about the tone and the imagery. So here we go. Check this out. This dude named Andrew Dahl holds the world record for blowing up the most balloons with his nose. Yeah, that's true. Not sure how he found out that was some kind of special talent, and I can't even imagine how much snot be in those balloons, but hey, it's a thing, and Andrew's the best at it. There's also this lady named Charlotte Lee who holds the world record for owning the most rubber ducks. No lie. Here's what's weird about that. Why would you even want one rubber duck, let alone 5,631? I mean, come on. And me, well, I probably hold the world record for knowing the most about the world records. That, and eating the most sunflower seeds. Let me guess. Sunflower seeds, Mr. Charles practically shouts from behind the counter of what he calls his country store, even though we live in the city. Mr. Charles, who, by the way, looks just like James Brown if James Brown were white, has been ringing me up for sunflower seeds 5 days a week for about, let me think, since the 4th grade, which is when Ma took the hospital job. So for about 3 years now. He's also hard of hearing, which, when my mom used to say this, I always thought she was saying harder hearing, which made no sense at all to me. I don't know why she didn't just say almost deaf. Maybe because hard of hearing is more like hospital talk, which was probably rubbing off on her. But yeah, Mr. Charles can barely hear a thing, which is why he's always yelling at everybody, and everybody's always yelling at him. His store is a straight-up scream fest, not to mention the extra sound effects from the loud TV he keeps behind the counter, cowboy movies on repeat. Mr. Charles is also the guy who gave me this book, the Guinness Book of World Records, which is where I found out about Andrew Dahl and Charlotte Lee. He tells me I can set a record one day, a real record. Be one of the world's greatest somethings. Maybe. But I know one thing. Mr. Charles has to hold the record for saying, let me guess, sunflower seeds, because he says that every single time I come in, which means I probably also hold the record for responding loudly the exact same way. So when we think about tone and imagery here, think about the details that Jason Reynolds gives us, right? We get to know about Mr. Charles in a very unique way. He looks like James Brown if James Brown were white. We get to know a little bit of detail about his store, how loud it is, the sound from the TV with the cowboy movies playing in the background. Mr. Charles is always shouting. Let me guess, sunflower seeds. We get to some imagery from those world records, right? All the snot being up in the nose of someone blowing up the most balloons with their nose, all the rubber ducks, but also the way that the narrator speaks to us here. It almost sounds like they're having a conversation with us. It doesn't sound like this classic book, right? It sounds like somebody just talking to us. And that's a choice by Jason Reynolds, right? He wants this character to seem inviting. He wants you to be able to relate to this character. And that's why he writes it the way that he does. So you guys are going to have to pay attention to those things when you're reading. Does the author make the narrator sound very formal? Does the author make the narrator sound very excited, conversational? Does the author almost sound very depressing when he or she or they write about what they're writing about? So those are things you're going to have to pay attention to, and the only way to do that is through word choice. Authors don't have any other tools except the words to make their worlds come to life. So you guys are going to be reading a few texts this week. Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants, Still I Rise by Maya Angelou, and you have the benefit of having it read to you, or having the audio of it, which is, I think, adds a whole nother layer to this piece. And then Robert Frost's Out, Out. Then you're going to go ahead and respond to the discussion board, which is you have read 3 famous stories or poems that were written by Hemingway, Frost, and Angelou. These writers use tone and imagery to express emotion and a message. Please read the following articles to help strengthen your response in this discussion board. So you get a little definition of tone and imagery. To which readings do you relate the most and why? In 2 strong paragraphs, explain what it is about the tone and or imagery of the story that speaks to you and why. So don't just write, I like this story because it made me think of A, B, and C. I mean, that's great, but you do have to bring it back to the tone and the imagery. So in your discussion board response, you want to check and make sure that you've mentioned those 2 terms at least once in your response. And then your peer response, please respond to at least 2 of your peers' initial responses. How successful is your peer in explaining their choice? And the tone and imagery of the chosen story. And what could you add to their response? Maybe you're like, oh, you're off to a great start. I wonder, are there any other passages that you thought, you can give them constructive criticism? That's totally, totally fine in an academic discussion board, right? We're all trying to push each other to be a little bit better. And then we'll talk about your assignment on Wednesday, the Unit 3 Descriptive Imagery Literary Response. I love this assignment. You get a chance to do a little bit of creative writing, but also a little bit of research writing. So it's a pretty cool assignment. So I will check back in with you all on Wednesday. I hope you really enjoy the 3 pieces that we're going to be reading this week. I happen to really love Robert Frost's Out, Out. And remember, you're looking for tone and imagery. What does the author's emotion seem to be, and what words do they choose to help paint a picture in your mind? All right, that's it for now. Have a great week. Make a plan to get all this stuff done this week, and I'll check back in with you on Wednesday.